Hello parents, my name is Wayne Ablett and I'm going to be your child's band teacher for the next year at elementary school. Starting off in band is an amazing process. It's a job that I love, and I know there's probably a lot of excitement around the house with your young person in starting a new instrument, but I'm sure there's also a lot of questions, a lot of information needs to be processed, and you got to get the instrument and all that. So this video is designed for parents to get to know a little bit about what band is like, and to hopefully give you the information that you need to make effective decisions and timely decisions as well, for your child to be successful in band. So I'm just going to start off by going through, I'll go through the instruments that I'm offering this year. Every band teacher is a little different, and they choose the instrumentation of their ensembles based on their own philosophy. So this year I'm going to be offering flute, clarinet, bass clarinet, alto saxophone, tenor saxophone, trumpet, trombone, baritone, tuba, electric bass, that's 4-string bass, and percussion. Okay, so in case you're not familiar with the instruments in band, I'll just hold them up right now so that you can sort of refresh your memory if this is a new world to you. Perhaps everyone comes from a different background, so I don't know what everybody knows. So here's the flute, nice and small, easy to fit inside a backpack, and same with the clarinet. Okay, this one's made out of ABS plastic, so it's really quite a durable instrument, which is great. This is an instrument that uses reeds. That's what the reed. Oh, I don't have a reed on there. There's a little wooden vibrating piece that fits on the mouthpiece, and that's called the reed. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Here we go. Just like a good band student, I always have an extra reed handy. So that's what they look like, and you're going to have some of these on hand, because this is what makes the sound in the instrument. So I always want to be really careful, and I'm storing them away in the case. And this is a saxophone. This is my alto saxophone that I use for demonstrations in class. There's also the larger cousin, which is the tenor saxophone, and it's about maybe that much longer. It's quite a large instrument, but really valuable. The larger the instrument is, the lower the sound is in band, and those low sounds make the band sound pretty great. So this is another woodwind instrument, uses reeds just like the clarinet. So the clarinet and the saxophone both use reeds, but the flute doesn't. Okay, you don't need any reeds for flute. Okay, moving on to the brass section, we have the trumpet. Everybody knows what a trumpet looks like. It's the Remembrance Day instrument. And the trombone, which is my instrument of choice, is what I studied in school. This one has a slide that goes up and down like that, and that's how you play it. And there's also the baritone, which I don't have with me today, and the tuba. They're very similar. They're sort of, a baritone's kind of like a trombone that's wrapped in a circle. It kind of looks like the people in the UK call it the tenor tuba, which is a really good description of it. It is tuba shaped, but it's only about as tall as your torso, okay? So it's a manageable instrument to carry around. The trombone, the tenor sax, the baritone, they're all fairly similar in size. This is what a trombone case looks like. Okay, so it is large. It's something to consider if you've got a child that's of a slighter stature. It doesn't mean that they can't play these instruments, not at all. And I'll get into that a little bit later. That has more to do with sort of mindset and attitude towards band, but something to consider anyways. It's a larger instrument and a little bit heavier. And then of course there's the electric bass, which I have just over here. I have mine in what's called a gig bag, which is a soft case, just a little bit lighter for me to carry around. And my bass just zips up in here. There it is there. You see that's the top of the bass. And, well, actually, I'll get the whole thing up so you can see it. You can also get a hard shell case, which offers more protection, but is, a little bit heavier and a little bit more expensive to, if you're thinking about purchasing. I'll get into purchasing or renting later as well. Okay, so that's the 4-string electric bass. As I said, we're offering tuba this year as well. Tuba, as you can well imagine, is a very, very large instrument. And your child would probably need assistance with moving it around, like a ride to school in the morning, that kind of thing, if they're going to be taking it back and forth to school. But what a valuable instrument to have in the ensemble. It would make all the difference if we had just one or two tuba players this year. And also percussion. Percussion means snare drum, bells, which looks like a metal xylophone about this big, and crash cymbals sometimes, drum kit sometimes. I'll be providing some of those equipments at school, but you'll need to to rent or purchase, I suppose, an instrument for home practice. And that's something that I'll get into in just a bit. Okay, so those are the instruments in the band. So let me talk about sort of first thing on your mind, I know it was with me, was how much is this going to cost us? So first of all, we need to talk about whether you should rent the instrument or buy the instrument. I would highly recommend that you rent the instrument in their first year. You have no idea whether they're going to take to band as they're going to be a band kid for the next 6 years, all the way through grade 12. Nobody has a crystal ball to figure that kind of stuff out. Maybe they're going to fall in love with volleyball at high school, and that's going to be their thing. That's great. But for now, just rent the instrument for a year. Quite often, our service providers, our music stores, they offer rent to own. You rent it for a while, and you can apply a part of that, part of those funds that have already been paid towards a purchase price, that kind of thing. Whether you get new or used, it doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. We only deal with reputable companies locally, companies that are going to provide a really good product so that your child's going to be successful. Okay, getting your instrument from another supplier, it's very likely that the instrument is going to be a hindrance to your child's development in music. I see it almost every time. So our suppliers are, and I'm going to send the documentation home so that you have a hard copy of this and even more information on it. Long and McQuaid Music, Tapestry Music, Matterhorn Music, and Tonley Music. Those are the big four that you want to deal with. Okay, dealing with an instrument through Amazon, even if it's brand new and super cheap, there's a reason why it's super cheap. Okay, you want to get an instrument that's of good quality, reputable companies that have actually been making these instruments for years and years. Not just, I can rent it from Long and McQuaid for $200, but I can buy a new one off of Amazon for the same price. It's quality. You're not getting the quality from another supplier. Years ago, there were actually like local stores like London Drugs that were carrying band instruments as well. Run from those places. Do not buy your instrument from there. Okay, get them from the big stores and rent them. If you can also use an instrument that was previously played by a family member, perhaps there's an auntie or an uncle that has a flute that's sticking in their closet for years and years from when they played in band. And those instruments are usually okay. Just take them to one of those four suppliers, take them to the repair technicians, and they will make sure that the instrument is in playing condition and that it's clean and that it's going to be a great instrument for your child to play. Okay, so we want to set your kids up for success. That's what this is all about. So rent an instrument from one of the big four stores. How many instruments are in band and what kind of instruments, like how many of each instruments do I offer? Well, it's kind of like a hockey team. Like you can only have a couple of goalies. You can't have 10 goalies. You can't have a zillion bass players in a band. It makes the band sound weird. So we generally like to have lots of clarinets. That's probably the largest group in the band. And then flutes and trumpets would be the next largest group. Low brass would include trombones and baritones and tuba. And then the saxophone section, we want to have a few of those players as well, and then one or two percussionists. So in a group of 30, you're looking at maybe 8 flutes, maybe 12 clarinets, 6 to 8 trumpets, 6 trombones, couple of baritones, couple of tubas, couple of string bass, couple of percussion. And that's kind of what we're looking at. But it depends on the size of the group, obviously. Some schools have groups that are larger than 30, some smaller than 30. So that's approximately what we're looking at. Some instruments that you may be familiar with are not in band at all. And it comes as a surprise to some parents each year, where they say, well, can my son play violin? Well, unfortunately, there's no violin parts in band. And while violin is lovely and fits in the orchestra, like that's what the orchestra is made of and made for, is violin, band is not the place for violin or electric guitar, and by electric guitar, I mean the 6-string rock and roll guitar that you see rock stars play, okay? 4-string bass, that's a different instrument entirely. It's played differently, sounds different. It's different altogether. And piano, there's no piano parts. They don't write those instruments in band music. So when you buy a song to play in band, they have a certain instrumentation that we can manage, okay? So in case you want to be a rock star, that's great. You can do that at home once you learn how to read music in band. Okay? There are some other instruments that are, maybe your child has experience on an instrument. They've been taking lessons for a while and they play the French horn, the oboe, or the bassoon. These are 3 instruments that I don't offer right off the top. But in case your child does play those, we would absolutely love to have those instruments in band. But they are kind of in their own category of instruments that are kind of like, okay, once you learn how to read music, once you learn the culture of band, once you've been playing for a few years, and we can switch you over to something that's maybe sort of next level challenging. If you take lessons on that instrument on your own time, love to have you sit in with band so that I'm dealing with sort of all the technical side of those instruments. Again, I'm sure you do too, your child to be super positive and excited and successful in band this year. So that's what it's all about. If you want to know what all these instruments sound like, you found this video through my YouTube page, and you'll see me, I use this is my home studio that I do a lot of content creating in, and I'll be posting videos this year. I posted some last year of me playing the instruments. There'll be play-along tracks and that kind of stuff, different resources that your child can use. So if you want to see what they're all about, you can do that. The last couple of things I'd like to talk about are physical factors that you can take into consideration when considering buying an instrument, or renting an instrument. First of all, you need to be aware that for your child to be successful in band, 2 hours a week is not going to do it. That's the instructional time they get at school. They're going to need to reinforce that just a little bit every day. And so I'll send home some resources on practicing and what that looks like. But if we can get ahead of the game right now and you can start thinking about a space and a time. Space and time is what we're always looking at for practicing. Is there a place where they can go and squeak and honk? The first couple of months are not going to sound good. No one has ever picked up an instrument in the history of instruments and sounded like a professional on the first day. It takes years and years and years of dedicated study. And so for you to provide a space for even 10 minutes in the first month, for your child to go in there and reinforce some of the things that we talked about in band, to try things, to experiment with things, to experience some success and some failure, and to go through that learning process is so vitally important for them. For you to be positive and encouraging is going to mean the world to them. I can tell you from years and years of doing this, I'm getting into my third decade in teaching music, and it's amazing what some encouragement, especially at the beginning, can do for a young person who's starting off in music. So some things there's some very specific instrument things to watch out for. So for flute, we're looking for, there's a lip formation called Cupid's bow. Cupid's bow. And that's where the very center of the lip comes down into a little point right on the top lip. And that actually gets in the way of the airstream that you're trying to blow into the flute, and it causes all kinds of problems. It's fairly rare. You wouldn't even notice it. You probably never even heard the term before. But it's totally normal condition to have. It's just the shape of your upper lip. And so if your child has, their lip comes to a little point right in the middle, that's probably going to be a challenge for them. And I would say, you know, if your child has a Cupid's bow upper lip, that choosing another instrument is a great way to go. They can play anything else. Okay, the other thing is about braces. I know that some students come to class wearing braces already, and some are, you know, they're orthodontists or their dentists are thinking about it in the next couple of years. So if this is a consideration for you, trumpet is usually the instrument that sort of pushes against the braces because the mouthpiece sits right on the dental structure right on the incisors. So if your child has braces, they can play anything. They can play trumpet too. I've had some really successful trumpet players who are just dedicated. They love the instrument and they fight through that difficulty on the instrument. So it doesn't keep them from playing the instrument, but if you wanted to take that into consideration, it may make their experience in band a little bit easier. Even trombone and baritone, because the mouthpiece is just a little bit larger, it sits on the outside of those front incisor teeth. And another thing with trumpet is jaw formation. So if they have an underbite, which means their bottom teeth come out and stick out a little bit further than their top teeth, just ask them to smile and you can tell. And they should have just if they have a little bit of an underbite, then when they blow, instead of their air going straight into the instrument, it'll tend to sort of go a little bit up. And that becomes a problem in playing the instrument later on when they try and start playing some higher notes. So just to avoid that, if they've got, you know, their teeth are sort of like that when they smile, then that's something to consider when you're choosing trumpet. Trumpet's a little bit finicky in terms of the formation of the mouth. Okay, just checking to see if I've got everything from my notes. Physical stature. This is always an interesting one because there's so many exceptions to the stature question. So I've had some students that are they're very slight stature. They're not very heavy. They're not very big and strong. And a lot of people think, well, you know, you're big and strong, you should play a tuba, or you should play the electric bass, or you can't play a trombone, you know, boys play trombone. Well, you know, yeah, boys do play trombone, but girls play it too. And it really, in the end, it does not matter. I have had really little students be very successful on larger instruments. It has more to do with attitude than anything else. Attitude is huge. Okay, so if you can, again, be positive and affirming and providing time and space for them to practice, that's going to make the difference. And it doesn't really matter how big they are. However, if you want to make some considerations there, if it's just going to, you know that your child's going to be frustrated and they're not going to be bringing their instrument back and forth to school because it's just so big and they're struggling with it a lot. Like I had a student last year who had their parents bought him a dolly and some bungee cords, and that's how he got his baritone to and from school. It was great. But if you wanted to take stature into consideration, feel free. That's another consideration. Okay. But like I said, attitude is everything, is the beginning and end. If they have a positive attitude, there's nothing they can't do in band. It doesn't matter. One of my teachers had a cleft palate, which means he had a hole in the roof of his mouth, and he had surgery after surgery after surgery on his upper lip. And he was an amazing trumpet player. I really, really respect him. So it doesn't matter what sort of, you know, shortcomings you think, you know, may get in the way. Attitude is everything, and you can overcome anything. So one thing I didn't say at the beginning is that my title is itinerant band teacher, which means I go to 9 different schools, and I teach at 4 schools every day, and I see every school twice per week for an hour, or about an hour. So you can imagine that's a bit of a crazy job. I'm running to and fro and hither and yon. So the best way to get in touch with me is via email, and my email address is ablitt_w@surreyschools.ca. If you ever have a question or a concern, please feel free to email me anytime, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll be sending home some documentation. Hopefully I'll get some price lists from our music suppliers, and a lot of this information I'll send home in documentation form, as well as a sign-up sheet, and so you can fill in all your information. If you're if your child is dying to be in band and getting an instrument is a problem, again, send me an email, and we'll manage that as well. Okay, we'll take care of you. Make sure your child gets the best experience as we can. And finally, want to invite you to our concerts. We have several concerts a year at Christmas, hopefully one in the spring and then one at the end of the year. And I'd love to see you there. That's a great way to encourage your son or daughter in their musical career just as they're starting. And trust me, they're a lot of fun. I know it's beginning band, and they're going to sound a little goofy at the beginning. We all know that. So we kind of have fun, and we kind of, wink at the audience and laugh at ourselves and enjoy the process as we go through it. So we'll make it sound as good as possible for you, okay? The Christmas concert, it'll sound a little bit of a squeak and squawk, but the end of the year, you'll be amazed at what they're able to do. Kids are amazing, and they're going to come through, guaranteed. So thanks for watching the video, and if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.